You may not realize it, but a Disney Photopass photographer is carrying all sorts of stuff so they can do their job. Here's a look at what I carried around to be able to do my job effectively. When I was a Photopass photographer, I carried around all sorts of gear and other things to be able to be ready. So I put on the old costume. Yes, I actually still have my outfits. To help give you a little bit of a look at some of what I used to carry and where and how I would carry it. We carried a lot of things. Now, of course, what you don't see is the very obvious camera and equipment. My camera strap eventually finally just wore out, even though I actually did still have it afterwards. Now they don't even use the neck straps. Now they have the full body harnesses, which are so much better. But we would have the strap, we would then have the heavy camera with the flash unit, and that would all be strung down to a PDA, keep it clipped on our belt, and that's what we would actually scan the Photopass cards. All that alone was probably about 8 to 10 pounds worth of gear. But we also carried a whole lot of other stuff as well. And all these extra pockets that we had, they all had stuff in them. Of course, we wanted to make sure that we didn't run out of batteries, and so typically in my inside shirt pocket, I would have a spare set of batteries. We had to carry at least 2 different sets. One would be the flash batteries, which are standard AA's, and then we'd have to have camera battery. I would tend to keep mine in my pocket. Sometimes I keep it down in the leg pouch, but usually in my shirt pocket for the fresh ones. And then once I used them, I would put them down into the leg, so that way I knew which were fresh and which were old. You'll see photographers now, they'll actually have a separate black pouch on their belt, and they'll keep their batteries in there. I just didn't like it as well. I like to be able to get my camera batteries and switch them in a hurry. And trying to dig through the pouch, dig down, pull it out was much more difficult than being able to just slide them out of my pocket and right into the camera. Of course, we also had to have a watch. Yes, you wear a watch at Disney. No cell phones. Don't use your cell phone. You're not technically even supposed to have your cell phone on you while working at Disney. Keep it locked up in a locker in your car or something like that. Now, that doesn't mean that we didn't usually carry our cell phones, but they would be turned off if they were in our pockets, and we didn't want them to even be seen. Because if you're caught with your cell phone, you could be fired on the spot. Getting terminated over your phone isn't worth it. So wear a watch. Then, of course, there's the shirt pockets. First pocket, this is my Photopass cards. Yes, I've actually still got a stock of them. This is probably the main card that we used when I was there. Although they do change styles. You'll notice on the back too, it's got a little code number and then the scan bar. That scan bar is actually what we would scan with the PDA. Camera would take the picture, it'd zap the picture down to the PDA and transmit it that way. We'd scan that bar onto it, and the PDA would actually attach this to the data on the picture, send it off into the system, and that's how they found your pictures. Pretty simple. That was the regular card, but we had other cards too. When I started, our card looked like that, and it actually had that kind of a scan bar. It didn't even have the square. Gradually, they improved them, and then we went to this one for quite a while, and that one. But you may also have event cards, like Mickey's Not So Scary would have one, or from a different year. Then, of course, there's Christmas and other specials. So there are all sorts of different Photopass cards, and in fact, if you went to a water park, you were going to get yet a different one. It'd look like that. If you're in the water park, you just put it on your wrist, and you don't have to worry about losing your Photopass card. Makes it easy to scan. So you carry a stock of Photopass cards with you. The other pocket, there's all sorts of stuff I would keep in this pocket. One, of course, was Sharpies. If you're with the characters do autographs. It's amazing how many people don't bring a pen or their pen doesn't work. And so you always carry Sharpies. I like to carry a variety of colors, so that way, depending upon the character, they could have a choice on what they wanted to do. Always, of course, had to have the standard black. You usually have blue, red, green as well. The way I actually like to carry them, though, was these. The clickables were really nice, worked the best. They just slip in there and you always had it ready, and you didn't have to worry about capping it or anything else. The only time I ever had a problem with the clickables was with Stitch, because Stitch would give you your pen back, and as you're handing it, he liked to click it and write on you. One other thing you'll notice too is it's the standard narrow Sharpie. Don't do these. They don't work very well. They become very awkward. Sharpies were a must though. Had to have your Sharpies. Additionally, we have a telecast. This would actually be all of our information about the park, specials, show schedules, different appearances for characters are in here and where they are, all sorts of information. This was a cast member's lifeline. Photopass members carried them, but so did many of the other cast members in the park. This is what you needed to know where everything was or how to get a hold of people. And so I would always grab a couple of these. Make sure I have at least one, and if somehow I lost it, I had another one. This was not for guests. This was a cast member thing. After that, I always carried a notepad too. That way, if there was a problem with any picture, or if I had to call my office and let them know that there was going to be something coming up, I could always write it down here. If I had a guest, their Photopass card wasn't working, or my PDA glitched out and it didn't send right for whatever reason, which did occasionally happen. It's technology. Technology fails. I would make notes in this. I would write down Photopass numbers and different codes and whatever I need to do. And so that way, when I stepped off the street, I could immediately go up and say, okay, I need to find this picture, get this number attached. Need to call them about this. And I'd have all my notes and everything available there. I would also, depending upon where I was working, if I was doing Magic Moments at Magic Kingdom, I would get one of these. The Magic Moments schedule would tell you where you're supposed to be and when you're supposed to be for different things like First Family, Tony's Magical Gathering, the Family Fun Day Parade, the bands, Grand Marshal at the regular parade, Flag Retreat was all part of this packet, and you had to be at every single one of these to take pictures. Attached to that would also be free picture certificates. And this was for your Grand Marshals at the parade, your First Family, for the Flag Retreat family. On top of that, I may sometimes have some other extras in here. For example, if I'd run into one of my friends over at attractions during the day, I might have a couple fast passes hiding in my pocket. Those would be things that, hey, there's this special family and I just want to be able to bless them. It'd be fun to be able to say, hey, you know what? Go skip a line. There you go. I didn't always have those, but every now and then I could get one. Oftentimes, too, I would keep one of these in my pocket. This is actually a recruiting card. If there was somebody that just had this outstanding personality and they were just fun, you could tell they loved Disney, and they would probably be a good cast member, I'd pull one of these out, and he would have my name, my ID number, and I'd say, hey, you ever think about working at Disney? Check it out. And we could get a small kickback. It was like $50 if somebody actually had worked for Disney for 3 months or something. But I thought it was just a great way to be able to connect with people. That would be all that pocket. Down on our side of the pants, we had another pocket, and that would also have a lot of stuff in it. I'd usually keep another stack of Photopass cards there just to make sure I didn't run out. I'd use the ones in the shirt pocket first, and then when I needed to, I'd refill from the pants pocket. Very important if you're working characters, especially if you're like Mickey at Character Spot. You had to have a ton of Photopass cards with you. I would also keep other things in that pocket. For example, times guides for all the guests. You'd have guests come in, what time is this? What time is that? Well, here, let me let you know, and here's a times guide. Take that with you, it'll tell you everything, and it's got all the information. That's the guest copy. I would also usually have some maps in my pocket. That way, if a guest was saying, well, how do I get to? If they didn't want to believe my simple directions, I could pull the map open and say, okay, here, we're standing right there. You want to go there. Here's how you get there. And I would be able to show them on the map as well as explain it to them. So almost always had at least one map with me. Can't forget my name tag. I've lost the magnetic backing, which is why it's not stuck there. But loved our name tags because we could actually talk about where our hometown was on them. That's got my service pin. But yes, always had to have your name tag. You couldn't go out in the park without a name tag. You would get in big trouble. Always had your name tag. I would also have various other things typically hiding with me, though. All of us have seen a cranky kid or one that's having a hard time getting a picture, and we'd have various ways to get them to smile. One of the best I found was to go find some old discounted cheap pins. And so I would usually have a small stash of 4, 5, 6 pins in my pocket, and I could pull out a pin and say, hey, tell you what, if you smile for me, you do good, I got a freebie for you. And kids would light up because they all love pins. And so I'd be able to hand them a pin just to be able to smile. These were magic workers. It was amazing what a difference you could do in somebody's day with a pin. And so I love to carry some extras from my own collection with me, ready to hand them out at a moment's notice for somebody who just needed a pick-me-up, needed something to make them smile, needed a little incentive. If I watched a guest do something really special or nice for somebody, they just kind of went above and beyond to do something unexpectedly nice. I also tried to carry what I called a magic pack. They were called sharing packs and various other things. And it would be one of these. They would actually have 2 pins, and you'd pull the whole thing out in the plastic just like that and say, hey, that was awesome what you did. I love it. Tell you what, I'm going to put you in charge, give you a little job. There are 2 pins. One is for you. One is for somebody else you see do something nice. I'm going to encourage you, go bless somebody else. These were wonderful. People loved these. Other things that I would carry in my pockets too would be my main gate. Disney would give every cast member a little packet that would look something like this. I've got some of my old ones here. Inside of that, you would have your main gate pass. This is actually what you would use when you would want to come into the park to visit yourself if you were bringing guests with you. So if I wanted to bring my wife and my kids, I'd have to make sure I had my main gate pass. go up to the turnstile, let them scan the card, and then they could let my wife and kids in. There were times, though, when it wasn't my wife and kids, but I would be working and somebody would want to come into the park and play for the day. Somebody I knew. I had enough free visits that I could let them in. Then make sure I walk up to the gate, scan them in, and go right back to work again. So we always carried our main gates with us. There were limited numbers of admissions that you had on it. When I was on full-time, I had 12 admissions a year. So 12 times a year I could get guests in. When I went back to part-time, it was only 6. There's other colors too. There's also a silver and a gray. And depending upon what your position was, you could get more or less different admissions. And last but not least, probably one of the most important things I carried was my ID card and my lanyard. Cast members are strongly encouraged, they don't have to, but strongly encouraged to buy a cast lanyard. This was mine. I also had one with Simba on it. And I actually use this now when I substitute teach. The kids all know my lanyard. Attached to that, you could buy one of these wonderful little cases, and that would hold your ID card at the end of your lanyard. Anytime you were backstage, if you were not in costume, you were supposed to have this out where people could see it. So if you're walking around backstage on your day off, say you want to get a bite or you have to check in with your boss, you made sure you had your ID card there, and it was out ready to go. If you were in costume, or if you were out in the park, then you had it all rolled up and tucked down into your pocket. But you always had to have your ID card on you. You could scan this down at the Learning Center. You could scan this to get into certain places. But this proved that you were able to work there and that you weren't just somebody posing. So for example, if I went into the parks now and I stopped at the security thing, if I tried to hold that up, they would look at my date badges and go, no, you're out of date. You're not getting in. I don't care if you have a costume on. You're not getting in. Can't get in with just the costume. You got to have the ID. And if your ID had expired, you hadn't gotten a new sticker or had worn off or something else was wrong, you weren't getting past security unless you called your boss. I had a couple times that I got to work and realized I had forgotten my ID. And we had to stand at security and they called my boss. Is this person real? Are they really an employee? Are they really scheduled to work today? Should I clear them? And my boss would actually have to fill out a form for me to get cleared through security so I could even get into the park and get to work. Never forget your ID. So that was all stuff that we carried. It was a lot of stuff. By the time we had everything that we were supposed to carry for our job, we probably had 15 or more pounds of extra gear and weight and extras that we would have. They kept you in shape because you're out there running around with all this stuff all day. So that's a little look at what we had to carry to be an effective Photopass photographer. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks so much.